live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Blake. I'm sad, very sad to report this, but I think I'm too good to play college football 26. I put it on Heisman. I've been smoking teams with my San Diego State dynasty. I should not be able to win this much. I don't know if you've gotten that same sense, but it feels a little too easy compared to last year.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the way that I've been throwing so obviously every year I start a dynasty off with LSU just to,
Sure.
For the AYSO stuff. I will tell you this. I mean, I threw 77 touchdowns in last year with Garrett Nussmeier.
On what difficulty?
I added on, was it not Heisman, but the one
All-American?
All-American. And Berrien Brown had 20. Chris Hilton had 20. Aaron Anderson had 20. Nick Anderson had 20. And I think Trades Green had like 11 or 12, whatever it was. And so it just gets to a point where I'm like smoking the shit out of people and smoking the shit out of these teams that I'm just like, whatever. By the way, guess who my second-year quarterback is? A guy that I've kind of ripped a little on this show, but then went and recruited his ass.
Give me one more hint.
Long hair.
Avery Johnson. You went and got Avery Johnson.
I went and got Avery Johnson.
Shit.
I'm 3 games in. I'm
such a hypocrite.
I'm 3 games in. He has 750 rushing yards.
You are such
a hypocrite. I am such a hypocrite. I will tell you this. Road to Glory is fun as hell now.
It's hard though.
You think so?
Okay, so the reason why I'm saying this, the way that they set it up is the recruiting part is really dumb to me. It should have just been like the old version where 3 games. You don't need to do the 5 that it gave us. 3 games. Your performance determines how many yards, touchdowns, blah, 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 determines your star rating. But these really ultra specific milestones, moments that you have to hit in the game are really annoying. Like for running back, you have to truck stick a defender. And I've tried to replay that moment 10 different times where I've hit the truck stick animation and nothing happens. And then the same thing with quarterback. One bad play goes down. You're going from a 4-star to a 3-star, a 5-star to a 4-star. The dumbest part about it that bothers me, it's nothing about actually playing the game. I committed to Memphis, and after I used the coins or the power or whatever, the attribute boosts that were given me for pre-ordering the game, I was an 88 overall. I was 10 overall higher than the guy on the roster, and I was listed as having more coach trust than the guy behind me, but I still had to do a quarterback battle, and I still didn't get to start the first game of the season because of that. So it's not it's just not fluid. There's just parts of it that I think
you suck.
I don't suck. I just told you I was the number 1 quarterback on the roster, and they made me fucking still compete for the starting job.
I had to do the same thing. I don't know what else to say. I mean, in a way, I felt like it would be a little bit more realistic, unless you have a situation like Bryce Underwood. In real life, you're not going to walk in. I mean, name a freshman starting quarterback outside of Bryce Underwood that starts week 1.
Well, that was why I went to Memphis. That's a more reflective example where if a 5-star went to a G5 program, they would immediately start. That would be the expectation.
By the way, have you seen this kid using Michigan, by the way?
No. On
playing online? It really is 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and he's beating the shit out of everybody. I saw on Twitter he's 127-1. The one, his power went out. He was live streaming it on Twitch or whatever it is. His power went out, and he lost. So when it came back on, he's been beating the shit out of everybody. He goes 4 or 5 yards in a cloud of dust. He does not throw the football. It's crazy.
That was what I used to do with the Michigan playbook. I did that last year. That is hilarious that somebody's doing that.
He is doing that. He's beating the shit out of everybody. So to that 14-year-old in his parents' basement, or the 45-year-old who's in his parents' basement, regardless, I don't feel like I have enough time to get that good. But I'll tell you this, it's always just fun, man. Like I'm sitting there having fun, really. The recruiting in the dynasty kind of bugs the shit out of me, though.
Why?
Because if I go in there as a recruiter, meaning my head coach, which is what I picked, I don't want to have – if I want to recruit – so my philosophy last year was I was going to go get 15 to 20 of the best players and then scout them all, and then at the end I'll get to the 25 number roughly. I'll go scout some 3-star gems and then bring them in. I don't like that it caps it off at 50. Right, I didn't like.
Yeah, you can't go hard into recruiting. Yeah, they did shorten that. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I didn't like that, and I also didn't like these situations about recruiting where, you remember how in the old game you used to be able to make promises and actually recruit. I think they're missing on some of this, man. I really do. And then some guys. Picking now that I'm in the second year, recruiting 5-stars a little bit easier. So, I mean, that was good. I did have a 5-star pop instantly, but I was inside the state and it was a Louisiana kid, whatever. But at the same time, I'm just kind of I don't, the only thing I haven't liked in the game so far has been the recruiting part of the dynasty.
Yeah, it's not easy. It does feel like they deliberately made it harder. Transfer portal movement's a lot easier to go after guys.
And that's what was the harder part of me. I only got 3 recruits. One was Avery Johnson.
I got the same problem.
Yeah.
I've brought in I've been Mike Norvelling it up. I've been bringing in 10, 15 guys, putting together
oh God, heavens no.
Hired gun rosters.
By the way, I'll show you tonight. I'm gonna get 27 to 30 high school commits. We got to build from within. By the way, half my fucking roster transferred.
That is a very weird.
Yeah.
You can cap the amount of kids that can leave, but yeah, they need to scale that back.
Actually, I didn't cap it because I'm hey, let's go do it. If you want to leave, I'll bring in a kid. By the way, my number one receiver in year 2 is a freshman, a 4-star Jim. Came in as an 80, and I'm I'm his quickest dude on my team. I'm throwing the ball every play. Avery Johnson's still running for 250 yards a game, though.
It's hilarious you ended up with him. That's so freaking funny.
Though, who is not doing so well? 2 people that will, and 2 programs and situations we'll talk about today. The College Sports Commission's having some issues, Joe. We'll talk about that in the open. Brent Venables is really going through it right now. We got to talk about this Oklahoma Sooner situation when it comes to recruiting. SEC Media Day starts tomorrow. At the end, we'll touch on a little bit, maybe something that we're looking forward to tomorrow as it really kicks off. And then, Joe, tonight we'll do a South Carolina deep dive as well.
Yeah, excited to talk about South Carolina. I hope I don't get yelled at. I'm sure that I probably will get yelled at about anything I say about South Carolina.
Yeah, not by me.
Well, no, I'm not saying by you. I think I'm actually going to be oddly positive today, but I know that South Carolina fans are probably going to find one way or another to be pissed off at me.
Well, we'll talk about them. I think that I think they're very intriguing. Again, I think they're ultra intriguing. Joe, I got to be honest with you. They lost a lot defensively, but they brought a lot in too. So I think they're a very intriguing team. And by the way, everybody's like, Rocket Sanders won't be there. Well, I mean, you brought in 2 backs that are pretty freaking good. So again, we'll talk about South Carolina. Maybe they can do some good things this upcoming year as well. But Joe, let's start off with this. Ross Dellinger reporting the College Sports Commission is under a little bit of not investigation, but under a little bit of heat as House attorneys believe that the denial of some of these NIL collective deals violate the settlement. Their verbiage and what they're going after is quote unquote wrongdoing per Ross Dellinger. Of the 1,200 instances or things that have are NIL deals that have gone through the College Sports Commission so far, aka NIL Go, 80 have been denied of the 1,200, Joe, just a bit north of 6% here. But there's already people suing. There's already people attacking. And by the way, Ross Dellinger reported on Thursday, before we weren't able to do this one. But there have been a couple of deals that people have applied for that have been within 2 weeks and they haven't been approved. And some of the players have not been able to go through those deals as well. Joe, there's 2 forms of this that I want to attack. Number one, should we give them a little bit of grace now that this is a brand new thing and starting? But Joe, at the same time, you're messing with somebody's money on just outright laziness on some of these parts.
So I think naturally we have this show, and the whole point is to have a take, to have an educated take, and to break down, have all the angles, to really attack what's the right or wrong in any situation. I got to be honest, this is one of the few times coming into a show, Blake, where I don't know where I stand. I think that the biggest takeaway that I've had from reading up on this is we should give them a little bit of grace. I'm not surprised that we're going through issues. I'm not surprised that Jeffrey Kessler and the counsel for the defendants in the case are frustrated with how things are happening right now, and they're aggressively fighting back from a statement that was put out clarifying things from the College Sports Commission of like what will be approved, what will not be approved, this aggressive stance of things have to be for a business purpose. They're trying to almost indirectly, without stating it, do away with collectives that are not a part of colleges and universities. I think with all of these moving parts, Blake, like I'm not surprised. I'm not. Like this is not that far removed. It just started. We're coming out of an era where it was utter chaos, and we're trying to rein things in and put parameters on top of it. But at the same time, we shouldn't be making excuses, because the damn thing's supposed to work. All of this stuff is supposed to operate correctly. I think this is like an early red flag, but not one that I would completely panic over.
It's so interesting that you say red flag, because the analogy that I was going to use is like when you remember when you're in a very big, like beginning part of a relationship, and the girl does something like she flirts with a little bit too much with people, and you're like, hey man, red flag. Or she says something, hey man, that's a little bit of a red flag. Like, what are you talking about here? Joe, I think this is more than a red flag, because here's the thing. In relationships, you're trying to figure out somebody that you have no bearing on. Joe, these are business deals that you said and you came out with, meaning Deloitte. Joe, they came out 9 months ago and said that roughly 45% of them would not have gone through. Now they've gone in here, and now 94% are getting approved. The 6% is about some language being used. So then where's the 45% coming from? Before you say anything, I would just say this. I don't think LSU's deals, as I was asking, have changed from a language standpoint. Actually, I will say this as someone who actually just renewed one, my personal self, Joe, there is no language that has changed. Zero, zilch, nada, not one word. So at the same time that you get to a place where, okay, cool. But Joe, there are kids missing out on money now. What takes you 14 days to read through a contract? Now, I know that 1,200 pages is a lot. You're not a court of law that gets to determine these level of things. You're not. You're there to enforce. Does this look like it's more egregious than what it should be? And even if it's a borderline situation, Joe, I got to be honest, these things better start getting approved at a better and quicker rate. It's not their job to tell somebody what fair market value is. And of the 80 that are denied, Dellinger went into some context in this. Some of them said, oh, well, we think this is a little too much for what it is. Says whom? Says whom? I mean, we're getting to a place where, Joe, with this College Sports Commission, I don't know if they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, okay, I think that they do know what they're supposed to be doing, and I kind of push back. They are the ones that are supposed to be determining. It's the whole kind of the point of it is to determine the fair market value of these deals. And the way that they're accomplishing this is by comparing social media followings, on-field performance amongst athletes, and past deals. Like we've already talked about and covered this. Where the frustration has come in from Kessler in this battle was that they're upset with the fact that they don't feel that it is fair to shut down certain deals because it is coming from outside collectives. And he has been arguing that they have problems with the fact that no stipulation was brought up during the case, during the negotiations and all that stuff, that outside collectives were an issue. I think that is more where the bigger problem is with this. But I feel like determining fair market value was supposed to be part of the commission's responsibility. Because
I don't want just they have a right.
Well, they technically do because they've been given that power by the federal government from this settlement.
No, they haven't. No, they
Why
haven't.
not?
Because if you go read Ross Dellinger's report from 3.5 weeks ago, no, they do not. And there it says that they will determine what they believe to be fair market value. They don't have the right to go after fair market value. What they believe is fair market value.
Well, isn't that the purpose of the arbitration, is to then argue against that?
Sure, there is arbitration in that. But believing and having the right to do it are two different things. I can tell you I believe that your girlfriend's cheating on you, and we don't know if she is or if she isn't. I can tell you that I believe a lot of things are happening, and they're not happening. Joe, okay. I believe that I should have a six-pack. I believe that I should be.
I don't think it's that. Wait. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that simple though to compare
Joe,
those.
There's denying deals with $2,500 with people with 20,000 TikTok followers to do a promotional video on.
Okay, but we're talking about 80. We're talking about 80 out of the thousands. I don't have a direct example.
I'll give you the direct example. Okay, the direct example comes from Dalton Forsythe, who, a part of Michigan, did a deal through the collective. In the deal, the total compensation was $2,333 for a TikTok video that got denied. Now, I don't know who his client is because they black it out, but the way that I'm looking at this, that's below fair market value.
Well, we don't know who the player is.
No, it doesn't matter. We're in the space. If somebody gave us $2,000 a month based off of what we're doing, you can't dictate $2,300. Joe, $2,300 for what was it? I think four media posts. Joe, that's less. I mean, what are we doing here?
Well, wait. So the problem with this situation is the general vagueness. We don't have the context of what the player was being paid to do. I have it in front of me. We don't have the context of what he was being paid to do. We don't have the context of
TikTok's right there. They have
I see that it says 8 Instagram posts, 8 X posts, 8 TikTok posts, 1 sports demonstration or camp, 1 meet and greet, and then everything else is blacked out. And this is the description that's provided by.
That's a lot of work for $2,300.
This is what the description is from the CSC. This prospective deal is with an entity that has a business purpose of providing payments or benefits to student athletes or institutions rather than providing goods or services to the general public for profit. As a result, this prospective deal does not satisfy the valid business purpose requirement, in addition to the reasons set forth, and may be other reasons why this prospective deal could not be cleared. So this returns back to what I brought up earlier. The College Sports Commission is trying to argue that, and this is where everything's getting really freaking messy. They're trying to argue that these deals that are brokered through NIL collectives that are not tied to the university are some sort of invalid business operation. And that is why Kessler
business situation.
I know, and I'm not saying that it is.
Then why are you denying it?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. This is a quote from Jeffrey Kessler that was in one of the articles that I read. This was in Ross's article. Kessler describes the guidance as not consistent and undermining settlement terms, according to a copy of the document Yahoo Sports obtained. The CSC acting on their behalf to decide what it would not be a valid business purpose for a school's collective to engage for profit promotions of goods or services using paid for student NIL. To the extent the NIL payments is for the promotion of a valid business purpose, it is irrelevant whether that the payment comes from an NIL collective or other third party. So that's where I think that the bigger issue is coming into play. The CSC does need power to be able to say what is fair market value. That's where I disagree with you. Where I do agree with you is that we get caught into this minutia that's causing all this confusion and this nonsense, is that the CSC thinks that they have the power to say which entities have the right to pay players or not. And that's why this whole thing is like a bunch of words.
Well, I think they're going to go into court and whip their, I think they're going to go into court and whip their ass.
I think they are. I think they are.
Again, here's the bottom line crux of it on what we believe or don't believe. And the United States of America denying this is bullshit. Sorry. It's bullshit.
No, I don't disagree with you. I don't
8
disagree with
TikTok videos, what was it? 8 Instagram posts, 1 sports demonstration or camp for 1 meet and greet. Joe, for $2,300, who cares who's paying him? That's not egregious. I'm sorry, but it's not egregious at all. So
well,
you're
the logic too for, I don't mean to cut you off, but the logic too is what doesn't make any sense either of like why they're shutting it down, which is what I'm agreeing with you on.
It doesn't, but that's my point.
Yeah.
In here, they're saying per Forsyth that part of this in the denial in the bylaws of the NCAA, go to 22.1.3. They're acknowledging a part of fair market value that's in that. I don't think they have that right. I don't think that they have that right. I'm sorry. You don't. There's no ramifications if somebody wants to pay a kid for 16 appearances of something and doing something for $2,300 that you should deny it. Joe, I don't care if Lucius, the devil himself, comes up and pays somebody. It doesn't matter. What country do we live in?
Okay, this is where I can't agree with you, because they need to have the power to determine what is.
You're living in a communist world if you're doing that now.
Wait. No, stop. That is a far extreme for us.
You're giving a third party the power of what?
The third party that was given power from this lawsuit from the federal government. This was all agreed upon and facilitated by the settlement through a federal court. Okay.
Sure.
You have to have, this entity has to have the ability to determine what is fair market value, because if they can't be sticklers on something like this, then they don't have the power to say no to a situation where say a team got private equity money or the extreme of if Saudi Arabia put money towards backing a collective and they paid a kid $20 million and their NIL deal was he makes 1 social media post for $20 million. Joe, that's clearly a bunch of bullshit. That's clearly a bunch of bullshit.
But Joe, that's well over. You're making a hypothetical about an egregious.
Wait. Can I? But you need that extreme example. You need that extreme example because you need to be able to prevent anything that is egregious and out of nowhere that is not reasonable.
Let's get back to reality. Reality is what you're talking about. And a what if isn't happening. 8 appearance on 2 social media posts and an appearance at a camp and an appearance at a meet and greet for $2,300 is getting denied.
Not because of the amount of money that it was. It's because of where the money is coming from.
Joe, a collective is a third. All right. Well, then you can't agree that where the money's coming from or the party that it's coming from is wrong in reference to they're not going to win it, and then come back and say, oh, well, it's a collective. Joe, they're going to get their asses whooped in court, and he's already fighting statements over this in reference to where it's coming from.
These are 2 separate issues, though. This is the problem. These are 2 separate issues.
Your collective is where it came from.
Yes, I am talking about, and I am agreeing with you, that it is bogus for the CSC to claim that where the money is coming from is a reason to deny an NIL deal from going through. Okay, so that I agree with you on.
Stop right there.
Okay,
right, let's stop right there. If we agree right there, then then what else are they denying? So getting to the crux of the issue in reference to multiple players having a 2-week window of saying, hey, we have an event in 2 weeks. Can you approve this? And them not going through is what we really, outside of this semantics, need to be fighting. Me bringing this in here is only a crux of, Joe, a baboon should be able to read this and say, all right, this isn't egregious. This is pretty fair market value. And what I anticipate their job should be is if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, then pop them. Not this. This is where we got to stop fighting the semantics, which what we were just doing, and saying, Joe, this is bullshit.
Okay. Again, I agree with all of those parts. I'm like 90% there with you.
Then what are you arguing?
Wait. Okay. I agree with you that the aspect of this, that it shouldn't take that long for things to get approved. That's a red flag to me. The complete shutdown of a NIL deal through a outside collective, that's a red flag. The red flag I can't agree with you on, that is a separate issue and is not related. It's not related to the Forsyth post that we just pulled up. It was not brought up in the explanation for what led to the denying of that deal. They do need, I still stand by this, they do need the ability to determine and say, this was a deal that was fair market value. This is a deal that was not. And if you disagree with it, we will go to arbitration. That has to be a mechanism in this. If they can't say something, then crazy numbers can be thrown around.
Okay, what's going to happen when they deny something and it should have been approved? What if one of these kids takes this shit to court and they win that son of a bitch?
But that's the point of the arbitration. But I would argue that's not a bad, but that's not a bad thing. If that happens, then they have that future context.
No,
they have that future context to better approve in the future.
Joe, it's a bad deal because you got to go to court and reference to some shit like this. Let me tell you what's going to happen. As a business owner, as you and I do, in reference to running these shows, if we're paying a kid, let's just round up to $2,500. If we're going to pay a kid $2,500, we're not going to want to have this shit go through legal documents and courts and anything else.
But that's not going to get denied. Those things aren't going to get it denied. And this deal that was brought up in the post that we're arguing with each other about was not related to the amount of money. That small amount of money should not get denied.
Joe,
it shouldn't.
NCAA rules 23.1.3 is a fair market value argument through the NCAA. They are going through this. Forsyth quotes it in the post.
1 second.
Please go through. So what are we talking about here? I can pull up the Deloitte, what is it called? Twitter post that says that they're not going to be doing fair market value trades.
Okay, so this is Dalton's tweet. The NCAA went from saying they'd evaluate for fair market value to looking at a range of compensation to now making it clear if it comes from a collective, it's getting denied. And if it comes from an associated payer like a business owned by your school's donors, that kind most would call a legit NIL transaction is likely getting the same treatment. That's not regulation, that's elimination. So again, he's focusing on the operations of the NIL payments that are coming from boosters, NIL collectives. That is where the focus is. I don't agree that this issue is anything to do with
then you're going to have to explain to me what fair market value is. Because if you've ever set your ass in a seat at Notre Dame and you've given them money, if your father has ever given them money, newsflash, you're a donor. So by that alone, donors aren't allowed to then pay. So what? It's through a collective. Joe, the collective part, this is where we're getting mixed up. And I should have probably explained this in the beginning. I don't give a flying dog shit about it coming from a collective or not. I really don't.
And again, I don't disagree with you on that part. I'm with you.
Again, if what we're fighting over is regardless of, then what are they denying?
They're denying.
Okay. Go ahead. And if we both agree that, okay, this is a little bit too much and egregious, regardless of the fine lines, Joe, at some point we got to start using common sense. And I got to tell you, from a guy who used no common sense when he ran the investigations with the Houston Astros and the cheat stealing scandal, spare me any leniency on this.
Okay. Again, I don't disagree with you on parts of this. I do. I share that sentiment, not to the same extreme, that there really can't be excuses made for the problems that they're dealing with at the current moment. Like, this needs to get fixed. It's why the defending lawyers in this case are going back and saying that the NCAA and the CSC are abusing the power that was given to them
Didn't
for
take 2
denying
weeks.
cases that are coming from collectives that are outside of the school or payments that are coming directly from boosters, whatever it might be.
What happens?
Those things were not supposed to be shut down.
What happens if they win that?
Well, it just gets clarified, and then they're allowed to do it. That's what they're hoping to get out of this. This is the world that we live in, and it's the world that we're going to live in for the next 10 years. Every problem is going to have to get solved in a court because we pushed off. This is what I think a big issue that not a lot of people or any college football fan even really realizes. We pushed off 100+ years of sports occurring at the college level where there was no litigation involved and nobody was getting paid. None. All the violations of athletes competing and not getting compensation and not being able to get NIL, all of that time is being funneled into a 5-year window, which is why this is also chaotic. And this is why all the court cases are going to be so chaotic.
Is Deloitte an accounting firm or an enforcement firm? I'm seriously asking. They're an accounting firm. Okay.
I hate that Deloitte's doing this. I don't think they're the wrong people to be doing it.
So stay with me. So everybody in the chat right now is saying, well, Blake, if you can get paid $2,300 off of TikTok and Twitter, my brother in Christ, we took AYS and Ruffino and Joe Show full time based off of what we're doing. If there's anybody that could be able to tell you what fair market value is for social media posts, $2,300 with Joe, I don't give a shit how many likes or follows this kid has. Come on. You got 8 posts and 2 social gatherings. Guys, that's an 80-hour-a-week job that you're basically giving a kid. And what will take much longer than that, it's 2 posts a month at minimum. And I'm going to tell you from Joe, last month we had 172 million impressions on Twitter. How much is that worth? Again, so to everybody arguing in the chat, it's literally our job. Yeah. Now, I will get back to this point. In reference to this, I agree with you in reference to some things in reference to, hey, there's got to be some enforcement. I agree there. We have argued this for so long. Yes, agreed. Enforcement. Got to happen. There also comes a part in time where common sense is being thrown out the door. And that's what I hate. I hate seeing people who could do a business deal and you can't get it done in 2 weeks. Here's another thing. You hired an accounting firm. Joe, did you take accounting in college? Because I did. And the first thing they tell you about accounting is business pays money A, individual pays money A, and at the end of the year, you account for, literally, that's what accounting is for. You account for all their expenditures. They have none, zero, zilch, nada, zero experience in reference to telling who or what is fair market value. So if they're denying this, okay, you're literally telling me that a company that's over accounting is denying what exactly? Now, if you would have brought in somebody else that could have helped you that's a part of financial enforcement, that would have been better for me than what I'm seeing at the current moment. Deloitte, to me, does not have that power, nor should they have that power to delay and do some of the things that they're doing. They don't. So when I'm saying, no, everybody's okay with the enforcement, guys, $2,300 in this specific case is egregious, Joe. It's egregious. Now I would ask you this. Of the 94% that got passed, what went through?
Well, we need examples. This needs to be public.
Right. Thank you. That's where I'm going. If you're going to give me the denials, can you give me the things you're approving? Because then I can go and look at this and say, hey, okay, because it's from a collective, you denied it. Now you're going to get sued over it. So now we get back to the same exact place that we were a couple of weeks ago. Joe, let me ask you this. If a collective puts a deal through to a kid, do they keep denying it?
What do you mean?
If, I don't know, name a collective. Texas A&M's collective puts a deal through together with somebody saying, hey, a business owner came through, wanted to do this. We're bringing it in. Here it is. What do they do now? I mean, you're getting to a point where they're a third-party institution. A third-party institution should have the right to do NIL deals. If I want to be a little bit honest with you, now with NIL Go, I don't know if collectives don't need to be a part of it because they can know all the language that the normal business owner wouldn't know. You're taking the burden off of the school to do this. I mean, Joe, who has more experience in doing these deals more than collectives do?
Well, that part I definitely agree with you on, is that I think that why would we eliminate a piece of this whole interaction that was there at the start? And in a way, it kind of simplified the process. Like, why are we making it direct now that the schools are the ones operating a lot of these NIL deals? I don't mean to keep taking us down rabbit holes because I know we got more shit that we want to get to.
The bottom line is collectives have a bad name to them because people think that a collective, if people are just getting money, and then they're distributing it. In most situations, what I think people are not understanding with some of these situations, a business owner is getting the connection through the collective to pay player X. Right?
Yes.
It's not, you got to read, I think some will miss the small details of what's being said here. It is not, Joe, it's not, we raised a bunch of money, we're paying it to whoever and whatever for nothing. That's not what's happening here. If this was a collective situation where no contract was put in and it was under the table like the Wild Wild West, sure, let's all attack it together. But you're getting to a situation where a business owner goes to Collective A puts the deal together because how does a normal business know how to go after a player versus calling the collective or emailing the collective? There are ways to do it. So again, I think from the very beginning of this is bullshit.
Well, and this is why this is being challenged at the current moment. It's being challenged as quickly as it is 2 weeks into the settlement being opened up and for the sports CSC to actually be operating and working. The swift reaction to the concerns is the only way that this gets fixed quickly. And we're going to have a lot of bumps. This whole first year of college football is going to be filled with bumps. I know we got a lot of the shit we got to get to. I didn't realize how far in we've been on this, but
we can go a little bit longer.
We haven't had a good yelling bit. You can tell we're close to football season when we have
again
a debate like this.
So Ryan brings this up. We can go over an hour. It's okay. A fair market value of Coca-Cola plays $2,300 for some videos, but a collective paying. What I think is getting missed here is a business owner contacted the collective and the collective did the deal. Right? Like, I think that's what's being missed here. Again, sorry. We can go a little bit over. That's my fault. I just hate seeing this stupid shit. All right.
Yeah, hopefully it gets fixed.
It won't. Oklahoma.
Oh, we got to hit the break. We haven't hit the battle line.
Son of a bitch. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about our good friends over at Oklahoma. They hate our guts at the current moment. If you saw Joe and I's Twitter, mainly mine. Let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. Everybody that we hadn't hit the break because I sure as hell forgot. I thought we'd already hit the break. That's my fault. All right.
No, you're good.
Joe, over the weekend, Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners got some news that they didn't want as they lost two recruits, one to Illinois with Jacob Eberhardt, and then with wide receiver Jordan Clay, the four-star wide receiver out of Texas, going to Baylor over the Oklahoma Sooners. Joe, I'm not saying that right now that the Oklahoma Sooners are in a quote-unquote bad situation at the current moment, as they sit 22nd on three, but they also sit in the mid-30s on 247, depending on what site you like the most. Joe, are the Oklahoma Sooners in trouble here when it comes to recruiting right now as they sit?
I think Oklahoma fans have been pretty self-aware about this issue compared to other issues that we've talked about on the show. Because if you go and you look through a lot of these commitment decisions where Oklahoma was in the running for these guys, you just mentioned that there were two four-star guys that they missed out on. One picked Illinois, one picked Baylor. Some I love to make the excuse of like, oh, he wasn't a take. It's always the most BS excuse that you see from fans when they do that bit. But if a guy was down to his final schools and he chose two much smaller, less brand recognized programs than yours, there's an issue, especially when we look at the current class for Oklahoma, and they're not really in the mix for any of the big name recruits. I said that Oklahoma fans at the current moment are a lot more self-aware because if you go and look at those comments, they're pissed. They're tagging Jim Nagy. They are going and they are tagging going, hey man, what? Someone sent me a comment yesterday and it was basically along the lines of, hey, you got any explanation for this? Like, what the hell is going on right now? Most of their class right now is 3-star guys. They've got Bo Bentley, who is one of the higher rated quarterbacks in this class. Daniel Odom, the wide receiver from California, was one of the few like nice pickups they had. But for the vast majority, they're rocking with a lot of 3 stars, and it really causes for concern if they're going to be able to rise up to that top 10 potential of recruiting classes that they usually have and they were supposed to be having now that they're in the SEC.
So let me say this. There are 2 schools of thought that I have with this, and I want to start off with the more positive one. Okay. You did bring in Jim Nagy, who in the scouting of things, Joe, does he scout high school players or college players?
College.
What happens in the middle part of December? Transfer portal opens. 2 things can be happening here. You going and getting kids that you think are a little bit developmental that you think they will be superstars. And then secondly, you going after the portal and attacking the portal at a very heavy and high rate because your director of scouting, the guy that's your GM, really understands that world and understands like, hey, man, I really think a couple of these guys are going to the portal and they're going to be NFL dudes. That could be one positive avenue that they're trying to take. I don't agree with that, right? I do not agree with that model or method. I think that is shown, Joe, when teams do that, they don't have the depth. That's neither here nor there. It might be the direction of what they're going to do. Because, again, Jim Nagy being the GM, maybe that's what's happening. You know what else it shows me? It shows me a lack of leadership, though, too. It shows me a lot of different people pointing in the wrong direction. Joe, I told you this last time we talked about Oklahoma more off the field side of things. Because on the field, we think that they might be able to do some good things. Mm-hmm. Either this is the Hugh Freeze type of situation where people are starting to bail out on this situation, or you're in a spot where they're going to attack it in a different way. Now, I think Oklahoma fans are going to want to think that they're attacking the portal. That's how your GM, who's over all this, and the one that you hired to bring in to do this level of job, that's the way that you want to go here. I have a problem with this. Remember when I told you 2 weeks ago when Twitter Spaces, I used to go in on when the Oklahoma news was a big deal, and Oklahoma fans used to flood it, a flood zone of Oklahoma people saying, brother, when we get that SEC patch on, we're going to start doing some things that when we were in the Big 12, we weren't able to do. Joe, remember when everybody made fun of Lincoln Riley in recruiting? Remember when Oklahoma fans did it? Now, I know it was a little bit different at the end part of when Lincoln left. Joe, they have a top 3 class at USC. They've been doing some really good things there. Can they hang on? Can they rebuild? I don't know what Lincoln does. Y'all killed Lincoln over this. You killed him. So now I'm in a point in place where maybe the positive is that you didn't want to overpay for some high school kids because you think player X, Y, or Z is going into the portal in December. Either you have it on good authority, you know their agents, you scouted them with your GM. I don't know. The bottom line is, though, Joe, when you see situations like this now coming off of 2 out of 3 losing seasons, I say losing seasons, but non-win seasons, and you're only winning 6 games, I got to question what's going on here. I mean, brother, you're losing players that you were involved with to Illinois and to Baylor. Now, Joe, they could say that they didn't want them, but then who else did you want? Joe, they lost out on a 3-star kid, by the way, and Lafayette, the edge player out of Florida. They lost him to LSU on Thursday. So there was another player that you literally had the last visit for and were pursuing at a high level, and you lost him too. Joe, I call BS. I think they're trying to recruit. I think they're getting beat. I think they're flat out getting beat. And I think that they're startled here about what's going to happen with Venables. And they spent a lot of money in the portal, so maybe that's where a lot of their funds went. I don't know.
And I think that it shouldn't be a fund issue. You're the University of Oklahoma.
I agree.
That's there should never be roster allocation issues when you have, now in the world of revenue sharing, you have the ability to spend up to that $20 million cap. That should never be brought up. I think that the craziest part about this, when you go on 3/Rivals, which is now the mixed company, if you go through and you look through all of the guys that they have offers out to at every major position, almost all of the top guys that are high 4 stars and 5 stars are committed, and they're committed elsewhere. And the guys that are uncommitted in the crystal ball projections, which are, that's speculation on the analyst parts,
but
of
somewhat
Rivals.
relatively true.
And you could always have the unexpected commitments like we did 2 weeks ago. That's always possible to happen when money's being thrown around and all that good stuff. But I think that with all of this and just seeing the map of where their offers have gone and how beat they're getting across the board at every single major position, it's a problem. There are guys still on the table for them that I think that they can end up getting, but I feel as though I reference this all the time. I like to listen to a lot of college football recruiting podcasts because it's just a really good way to know who's next and which schools are building up. It's the context that I've used to talk about Oregon is a really good example so much, because every year for the past 2 years, they've been talking about Dan Lanning, and now the roster looks the way that it does. I don't hear Brent Venables in Oklahoma getting brought up much. They've talked, Bo Bentley gets talked about a lot. He's a good football player, but there is just a lot left to be desired. And I think, frankly, a ton of misses. And overall, and you approached this, I don't know what the plan is. I feel like I can look at a recruiting class and I can see, okay, they're trying to get these, and these positions squared away. And these, like, you can tell these guys are the priorities. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It looks like they're swinging and missing and then hoping people commit.
Joe, here's the truth, though. Can you go out and top off your roster with some really elite transfer portal players? Yes. No one's saying that. You don't win. Joe, who won the Super Bowl?
The Eagles.
What was 95% of their team?
SEC players, Georgia players.
Well, I was just going to say draft.
Oh,
right.
Yes, drafted guys. Drafted
okay.
Guys.
Bringing dudes from within to the ones that you're selecting. Joe, who won the national title?
That was Ohio State.
Did their whole front seven come from the portal, or did it come from in-house recruiting?
In-house recruiting.
Okay. You can't do the latter. You just can't. You can't do it in this league. You can't. You can't do it in the Big Ten either. You just cannot do it if you want to have relative success. Joe, the number 1 portal class last year went to the University of Ole Miss, or University of Mississippi, excuse me. How did they do?
They fell pretty damn short.
Of their expectations.
Yeah.
Okay. You can go and do that, and it might get you to 9 wins, but it's a one-hit wonder. You're like the dude that sang that song Tipsy. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. No one even knows who he is anymore.
That's a weird random analogy.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. Are you a one-hit wonder or want to do one-hit wonders? You got to build from within. You got to build from within. But, Joe, how about this? There is a player inside the state of Oklahoma named Mason James from Norman, Oklahoma, who committed to Washington over Oklahoma.
I wrote this down in my notes too. Like this, I think, truly encapsulates the whole problem. You've got a guy in your backyard, and he's easy example. But if any Oklahoma fans want to get mad about this, the easiest example: LSU just got a commitment from Lamar Brown.
Yes.
Baton Rouge goes to a high school that's in the backyard
on campus.
No,
it's literally on campus
of LSU. And he was flirting publicly with Texas A&M the whole month leading up to his commitment. And you know what LSU did? They realized
paid it.
We can't lose this kid. This kid's got to be coming to play for us. I know that that player that's from Norman, Mason Jones, he might not be the number one receiver like Lamar Brown was.
But you just lost another 4-star receiver to freaking Baylor.
Yes. Yeah.
Joe,
it's nuts.
Let me ask you this question before we get to South Carolina here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people praised the Jim Nagy move.
We did. We talked highly of it. We talked about how like this is unique, and we talked about it. We didn't.
I said it was unique. I didn't say it was good. Hold on, you better go back and listen to that now. Bullshit. I know for a fact. I ain't gotta listen. Go, please, dear Lord. We argued in it. You yelled at me. Joe, there also comes a part where if you go back to that, there was a discussion in there that you and I had of this might be unique and everybody knows who Nagy is. He's never been in this level of role. Never. I mean, you're talking about a guy who puts, with all due respect, I think what Jim Nagy was doing was elite at what he was doing. The problem that I have here is, brother, I mean, he's got to get his feet in the sand, and I understand that. He can't just come in there and walk in there and do wonders. Joe, they're losing basic battles that Oklahoma, with that their logo alone, should win. There's no reason they should lose a kid to Illinois or Baylor unless it's a crazy circumstance.
Well, and I'm not trying to accuse Nagy of not having the relationship building skills, but that's the big part about this. As much as money is thrown around, the vast majority of the big deals that are being offered are in the same ballpark. I'd find it hard to believe that Baylor and Illinois came to the table with and Washington came to the table with ridiculously bigger offers, that they turned it down. Nagy and the coaching staff and the recruiting staff, like, they have to be missing on something here with building relationships. Because that, to me, it feels like you're losing a kid in your backyard. That's a relationship issue. That's not a money issue. You've got the money. You have the damn money. What is going on in these conversations that are not closing deals?
Boy, they ain't really clowning old Lincoln anymore, are they?
Yeah, you don't really hear a lot of talk about Lincoln.
Ain't that funny? Boy, as much as people were on his ass, maybe it might have been an Oklahoma issue for all we know. Who knows? All right. Joe, we continue on our deep dives here. We go to the great state of South Carolina. A massive topic of conversation last year between you and I was the University of South Carolina. But the Gamecocks had a really good season last year in 9-3. Joe, LaNorris Sellers came out at the end of the season and showed why a lot of people think going into the season this year, why he might be the best quarterback in the SEC or one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Joe, when we go into the 2025 season, when you look at the University of South Carolina and Shane Beamer and this club with LaNorris Sellers, how do you see things shaking out? What do you think of the Gamecocks?
So as I said at the beginning of the show, a little wary of getting possibly yelled at by South Carolina fans.
They were on your ass last year.
I'm going to make it really hard for you guys in this show to hate me after what I have to say. I'm going to make it very hard, but I'm sure some people will find a way. I think where the positive and the optimism and the excitement should come for South Carolina to replicate a degree of success that they had last year comes from the fact that they have two of the best young players in college football. One player who arguably might be the best at his position in Dylan Stewart, and another who was top 5 at his position in LaNorris Sellers. LaNorris Sellers is definitely the most mobile, best mobile quarterback, best runner in college football, and he's a damn good passer that showed improvement on a week-by-week basis. That, to me, is something I love when I evaluate quarterbacks and I watch them, is that when they get better every single game, and you see that slow, linear improvement, not the highs and the lows and the peaks and the valleys and the frustrations, but the excitement. It's, can I see you get better every single week and become a frustration? We watched last year their offensive line go through a lot of problems. And LaNorris Sellers proved that he is too damn strong for that to be a problem for him. He's impossible to take down in the pocket. Their run game prevailed despite their offensive line being shaky. I say that to say, Blake, as we dig through their roster in this segment, I think that there are absolutely holes that can hold them back, just like any team has. But when you have two elite players on your roster, sometimes it's enough to catch a spark, just like it did last year.
So, a team that I probably defended more than anybody down the stretch last year was the LaNorris Sellers led Gamecocks. I don't think they should have been 9-3. I think that the game from LSU was taken from them in the beginning of the season with the Garrett Nussmeier hit and Emin Worry having the pick six. I think they should have been in the playoff. They were a good enough team. They won enough games to do so. But, Joe, I am a little bit wary like you are on what they could be going into the year. Joe, if you told me at the end of the year they're 9-2 going into the final game versus Clemson, I 1,000% can see it because LaNorris Sellers put this team on his back a year ago and got him there. He got him there. I mean, Joe, what are we going to talk about? Rocket Sanders isn't there. I love the two backs that they brought in during the offseason in Faison and Augusta. I mean, I got to be a little bit honest with you. I think they've done some decent things in high school recruiting. Some really good things with guys like Dylan Stewart. Joe, they've dominated the portal. That when you look at some of the players that they've gotten in some of these positions that they've gotten drafted, if they do this again, and they do it, and I understand 2 years ago was really tough. They had a crap load of injuries. The whole offensive line was a mess. Spencer Rattler, whatever. But, Joe, they're getting more draft picks selected than almost anybody. I didn't say anybody, but almost. Joe, there gets to a part where they brought in 8 players on defense, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when I look at them offensively, there are a couple of things that I worry about, not always the personnel. Can Nick Harbor take that next step now that he's given a year over to football? Will he be a better route runner? Joe, if you remember at the end of the year, Nick Harbor was actually being used a little bit more by Dale Loggins than the beginning of the season. Boy, when he quick track, the route running looked like it really improved. How does Mike Shula, who was promoted here as the offensive coordinator, use a guy like LaNorris Sellers? Joe, you have a guy in Dale Loggins who I thought did some magical things and had some magical play calls. Now, it looks like that when your quarterback breaks 27 tackles versus A&M. And no, that's not exaggeration. He broke 27 tackles, Joe, against A&M. But, Joe, I really think that for them to have the success that they're looking to have yet again, LaNorris has got to take off the glasses and go Superman again. If you remember, when he took off the glasses, and this is not a joke, I'm serious. My man turned into Superman.
Yeah, hold on. Can we not talk about the glasses? We're not. No. That is such a.
You did this last year. You said you did this last year.
Okay, I have no comment, Blake. I have no comment.
He went full. Did you really think I wasn't bringing up the glasses again after last year?
Blake, if I get yelled at, I said so many nice things to start the segment, and I was okay. Fine. I get my one asshole comment. I made the dumb, really bad joke about the glasses last year, and he started wearing contacts, and he was amazing. I wasn't saying that the glasses were a problem. I was trying to make an awful, dumb joke as an idiot who wears glasses who can't fucking see. I was trying to be funny, and it didn't work. But he suddenly started playing really good when he stopped wearing them. That's all. I'm going to get yelled at for this.
Though, in seriousness, you know I had to bring that back up. But in all seriousness, he did, though. And shit got real. If we're going to be honest, for me, going into the season, there is no quarterback in the country that I am more intrigued by than LaNorris Sellers. It does not exist because of the freakish shit that he does. Joe, is he going to look better as he did at the end of the year? Now, he had some bad throws. He had some bad passes.
He was a redshirt freshman. That's the crazy part. We got to realize the kid's young. He's young.
Exactly. How does he develop in year 2? Bennett returns at receiver. You have some big pieces that you can do. Joe, I think the Dingle kid that they brought in, the tight end from Kentucky, how about this? These were the offers for Dingle coming out of the portal. Texas A&M, LSU, Florida. I mean, you get to a point where you have Texas going after this kid. This was a big win for them. And the way they used Simon a year ago, I thought was very brilliant. You start getting to a place where, Joe, I think that they in the SEC might have the highest ceiling, but the lowest floor. And the reason I say that is because when you go into the portal as much as they had, and if you don't give LaNorris Sellers the ability to do what he does, you had turnover at coordinator, you had so much turnover on defense. Joe, I could see them. If you told me they're 6-6, 7-5, yeah, I could see it. Joe, they're 10-2 knocking on the door of the playoffs because LaNorris Sellers goes off again. Then you didn't watch South Carolina football last year.
Yeah. So I like the way that you put that. I think, sadly, there is a little bit of a boom and bust degree with this team. That's why I led in with like the things I'm really excited about. Why this team absolutely can be. We'll look at their schedule in a second, but like they absolutely can be 10-2 because we're not. It's very different than if we were talking about some of these other rosters and some of these other conferences that we've talked about being really well rounded. When you have elite players at the two most important positions, that stuff will carry you. You will win football games. We literally watched it last year with LaNorris Sellers still learning how to be a quarterback and learning how to play the position and learning how to make reads and decisions. He still kicked so much ass that he won them football games with his legs when he was off the mark throwing. And then when he started to get in the rhythm as a passer, he was even more dangerous. That type of natural playmaking ability is a reason why he is likely going to be a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft and why he is one of the best in the country and why he will continue to cause headaches. And when you have an elite edge rusher like Dylan Stewart, if they're, with the interior of their defensive line, moving guys on to the NFL, you're losing Demetrius Knight to the NFL, you're losing Nick Emenwari, you're losing all these bodies, they're going to cause problems for you. But when you have a top 3, if not the best young pass rusher in college football, if you give up a big play, he can get right back for you and turn a 1st and 10 on the 40-yard line into a 2nd and 25. Well, I'm saying that Dylan Stewart could turn it into a huge sack.
My fault.
There's just a lot, though, that they are replacing. I've seen a lot of takes out there that have just been like, they're screwed. There's nothing that they can do. They lost TJ Sanders and Tonka Hemingway, all these guys that were so good, and Kyle Kennard. There's no way to replace that. I think that that's a little bit too reactionary and a little too like the sky is falling. We didn't have expectations for them last year, and I stupidly was all in on fuck them. They're down. They're done. They're not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to make that mistake again. In a year where they're being doubted again, they're capable of proving us wrong again.
There's a little bit of worry for me, and let me get to the worry. Their offensive line has been strugglesome, and I say strugglesome. They've been bad in situations that LaNorris Sellers bailed them out of, along with Rocket Sanders a year ago. So they do go in there into the portal, and they get 3 offensive linemen and Rodney Newsome, Bo Stanley, and the Nick kid. Okay, so 3 different players in the interior of that offensive line that maybe they can insure. Joe, I don't know if you have a true number 1 receiver on the outside for LaNorris Sellers, and that does worry me because you better have somebody in these critical games. We talk about it all the time that can come down with the ball when you need them to in critical games and in critical situations. I'm just going to be on the edge of let's see Mike Shula do it. There's a lot that's going to be overturning there. How do they do play calling? I don't know. The weird question for me, even with Dylan Stewart at edge, who dominated as a freshman, South Carolina, what they needed to do to keep him there. Joe, they're bringing in 10 players from the portal defensively. 8 of them are up front. Now, you hit on Kennard a year ago. You hit on Emenwari a year ago. You hit on a lot of these players. But, Joe, do you do it again? Because a lot like their season could be boom or bust. When you go into the portal for 10 players up front, that also can be boom or bust. 10 players on their defense, 8 up front. Joe, that is a lot of depth that you're trying to replace through the portal. Now, they got some guys that I think that can do some really, really good things. Is there somebody on the other side that can really get after the passer? They did recruit well up front in their defensive tackle room. Can they replenish that? They've had some pieces. And oh, by the way, one of my favorite safeties, and I know that I'm going to throw this out there, dude. Kilgore's a dude. Like, they got some dudes. Kilgore will come down in that box and light your ass up. And I felt like last year, this team, more than anything, Forget the players. They had a lot of elite talent. And you got to have that to win in these big conferences and big games. Joe, they had an attitude. They had an attitude about themselves. If they're going to hit, I just feel like, man, they could do something here. But again, boom or bust. The 8 players just scare me, though, Joe, for them up front.
And it should. And I think that there are returning guys at key spots that goes underrated. You brought up Kilgore is one. The biggest piece with me before we get into their schedule, Nick Harbor definitely is like the biggest priority for me. Their receiver room was fine last year. Nick Harbor has to go from being the best athlete on the field to being the best football player on the field. Yes. There is a world where he could be DK Metcalf good or even better. Like, he's built like him. He's as fast as him, maybe even faster. He is going to be so hard to track down. But the problem is you watch him and it's like the route running's not refined. His hands and just natural feel for playing the position. I see a kid who was probably kick-ass at every single sport that he picked up, just inconsistent at like knowing how to play football at the college level and to be a top player. And it takes time. He was committed to trying to run track, and that's difficult. I think a lot of people think that Nick Harbor is better than he is because of how hard he is to stop in CFB 26, because he's impossible to stop. He has a lot of like actual football playing and proving to do before he can live up to that potential. If he lives up to that potential, we're talking about like a 1,200-yard receiver. We're talking about one of the best in the country. That to me could be that final tipping point for this team hitting their potential that we're talking about, and them going 10-2.
Is he the receiver that is just the freak of athlete that catches the ball against Alabama for a touchdown? Or is the guy at Illinois that we saw at the end of the season, Joe, catch 4 passes for 61 yards? Like, which one is it? If you go to that,
and that's actually one of his more productive games too. Like,
it is. It's the most productive game he's ever had outside of like touchdowns, which Joe, are just him being a freak show for what it is. Nick Harbor is Nick Harbor for me. I'm putting him on a shelf of his own category for special situations that could or could not happen. Maceo Bennett's got to be the dude. He's got to be the dude. There's got to be some more separation for LaNorris Sellers. And look, Joe, I got to be real with you. Mike Shula worries the shit out of me as a play caller. I mean, the last time we saw Mike Shula calling plays, it didn't go over well. So last time Mike Shula did anything in the SEC where he was really a big deal, it didn't really go that well. So we'll see. We'll see there. Joe, look, I guess we can get to their schedule, but it just I'm at a place with them. It's either really boom or really bust with me. Go ahead.
No. I'm going to read the schedule in a second, but I just remembered. I forgot that Mike Shula was the Giants offensive coordinator in 20. God, he was a shit NFL offensive coordinator. I'm sorry. I was so nice the whole segment. He was such a bad NFL offensive coordinator, man. With the Panthers and then with the Giants. Like, he was awful. I think he was Cam Newton's OC for a stretch, which is, I mean, like, that's a little promising, but he was awful when he was with the Giants. I do not remember Shula very fondly. All right, let's read the
I will. Yep. If I'm going to give him some credit, he was a big part in saying and helping Joe Brady a lot when he was at Buffalo. I will go there. If there's something that I know, Mike Shula was, I think they were in Buffalo like in 2023. Am I wrong there? Was Shula in Buffalo in 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
2022, 2023.
There was a year where him and Brady were really close. So maybe Joe Brady rubbed off on him a little. Who knows? Pause. Yes, go ahead.
I didn't realize I'm turning this into a rabbit hole. I didn't realize the last time that Shula
was in college
was when he was Bama's head coach.
Yes.
Wow. Talk about
guess who the coach after Mike Shula was?
It was Nick Saban.
It's Nick Saban.
All right. Well, Mike Shula. I mean,
is there any worse coach to be ahead of?
No. I mean, it's automatically going to kind of. Shula's one of those guys that, like, you see his name, and you don't kind of like register it until you pull up that Wikipedia page. You're like, that Mike Shula, and you start to remember all the bad things that fall. You're right. I didn't even register with that because I knew that he was taking over play calling for this upcoming year, but that none of those things registered for me. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, quickly.
All right,
they're
South
scheduled.
Schedule. Yeah, let's get to it.
Versus Virginia Tech, versus South Carolina State, versus Vanderbilt, at Missouri, versus Kentucky, bye week, at LSU, versus Oklahoma, versus Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M, versus Coastal Carolina, and versus Clemson. So they benefit from having Clemson at home. I don't see Texas or Georgia on here, which is super beneficial. The tough road matchups that they have are LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that in the beginning of their season a year ago, they had LSU early, right? And they came out the gate with a loss in the beginning. You're like, oh, here comes South Carolina. If you remember the next couple of weeks, I think they had Ole Miss and then they had Alabama. So in the beginning of this, they didn't really have the bigger name SEC schools in the top part of their line or top part of their schedule a year ago. But Joe, they start off in week 2 with Vandy. And that game's at home. So we'll see what Diego Pavia's got up his sleeve. An early little slept-on matchup of quarterbacks. Diego Pavia versus LaNorris Sellers here. Joe, they could be going into Baton Rouge on October 11th undefeated. That's what I think is going to happen here. I think they beat Mizzou. I think they beat Kentucky. I think they beat Vanderbilt. And obviously, I think they're going to beat South Carolina State. Yet again, they got a game and a little bit of a revenge against LSU that, Joe, when they start getting into the month of October, that's where shit gets brutal. The Ole Miss and A&M back-to-back road games, I know they got a bye in between those. I look at that and say, man, that's a tricky situation to be in right there, man. You got 3 of the 5 games from mid-October to mid-November. Of those 5 games, 3 are on the road. Joe, that's their season. That's it. It's right there. So I don't know if they can beat Ole Miss, LSU, Bama. That's going to be very tough. But, man, I still think that they can pull off one of these that they're not supposed to, too.
Right. This is where, like, you look at their schedule, it is tough. They have a lot of beneficial home matchups, but there is a world where Bama ends up being not a juggernaut, but an incredibly talented team this upcoming year. And trying to beat LSU and Ole Miss on the road is going to be a very difficult task. We talked about how Texas A&M has a lot of potential, but they have their own question marks. That is where I think this wide spectrum comes into play compared to most teams, where 10-2 season on here is accomplishable if they eke out a close win and like late game heroics by Sellers. But the flip side of that is, with all these big matchups, yeah, they could finish 7-5. 7-5 is totally on the radar. 6-6 is totally on the radar. I think if they suffer like one big injury, that's the problem, where like we're so committed to them having premier players at key positions. If one injury happens in this stretch as we get into November, like that is when they finish slow.
You're going to have injuries.
Yeah.
You're going to have injuries.
Yeah.
You could have a more front-loaded season than you did a year ago, where the back stretch is where you made your name. But, Joe, Ole Miss, Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, and look, we're tossing Missouri out. I mean, Drinkwitz has had 3 straight 10-win seasons. 3. And we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater with Mizzou. Let me ask you a question. I mean, like, even that one, I think they can beat Missouri. Just so and I said earlier, I think they will beat Missouri. Joe, what's the difference between Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkwitz in the last 3 seasons?
Kiffin's had better portal classes, and that's about it. And they've had basically the same overall production.
Both of them went 11-2. Both of them beat Big Ten teams in a bowl game 2 years ago. Both of them had 11-win seasons, and all 3 of them, well, actually Lane did this year. They're getting to 10 wins with the added bowl game or not. I mean, like, we're throwing Missouri in there, saying that's like, I'm not saying that's not a cakewalk anymore. So no. you get into a place here where, Joe, I don't know what to make of them. If they're going to do what they think they can do, LaNorris Sellers has got to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. And I mean that. He's got to go off. Because, again, when you're going up against Bama, when you're going up against LSU, when you're going against all these teams, if he doesn't, Joe, I don't know if they have the talent around him for them to overcome when it's all said and done.
Yeah. We'll see, though. High expectations. High expectations.
Very much so. Sorry I kept it 16 minutes over the time.
You're good.
Any super chats? No. All right. Good show. Sorry we argue about
it's a fun segment.
Things.
It's the point of the show.
Dylan Stewart going to get double-digit sacks?
I think so. I mean, he had 6.5 last year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get 12.
He gets to 12, they might be cooking with grease.
Yeah.
All right.
I can see it.
See you tomorrow. Peace.